Welcome to the Yoga Society podcast, where yoga is for everyone. I'm Martha Cottrell, and in each episode, we explore yoga, mindfulness, and movement for wherever you are in your journey. So let's get started. Hi, everyone. Today I'm here with Priyanka Gupta, a mindfulness, meditation, and yoga instructor here today in Toronto, but she teaches all over the world. So really excited to have this conversation. We're going to be talking about meditation, mindfulness, the benefits, the practices, and how everything leads into yoga today. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Truly an honor.
Oh, great. Okay, why don't we kick things off by, could you tell us a little bit about your journey with yoga and meditation, how you got started and everything about that?
Absolutely. I was a troublesome teenager. So at about 17, my mother was like, I can't handle you.
This isn't what I was expecting.
Sent me for yoga. And this is back in India. And she was not into yoga. So it wasn't like she had any great love for yoga. It was just she was trying to figure out a way that her daughter could find a little bit of peace. I was very hyper, very athletic, and I had all this energy that I didn't know what to do with. So my journey started without any mindfulness. It was just pure yoga, try to be a pretzel, do the handstands, the headstand, the crow, the physical part of it. Yeah. And I think I practiced Shivananda Hatha Yoga for a decade. And it's like the same 12 postures with variations.
I just did my first Shivananda class last week.
Yes. So very basic, very rudimentary, and a great introduction. It was only 10 years later when I went for Vipassana, which is a silent meditation retreat where you learn to meditate. So focus on the breath. That then the I think things started changing, because that's when I became a little bit more interested in the mindfulness aspect of yoga. So less physical, more mindfulness. And then sort of weaving them, playing with them, studying teachers like Tara Brach when I was still in India, because my students would tell me that I've gotten ahead of myself. So anyway, so after I did my Vipassana, my father said to me, why don't you go and get certified to teach yoga? And the reason he said that was because I had just quit my corporate job as a voice and accent trainer and didn't know what to do. And so I thought, I'm just going to backpack around South India with a friend of mine. Okay. And it was when I came back that he said, since you've been doing all of this, go get certified. And I was like, I don't want to teach yoga. That was never part of the plan.
Yeah.
And so I went and I spent a month in an ashram, came back to Delhi. So I went to South India, spent a month in that ashram, came back to Delhi. Didn't feel ready. I kind of taught a friend of mine yoga, and then I didn't feel ready with the tools, with the knowledge, with the information. So then I went up north and spent another 2 months at an ashram near the Himalayas.
Nice.
Then when I came back, I started to teach. And it started with one person, and then it kind of just word of mouth, teaching expats, diplomats within New Delhi, business people. And so, I would go to their house, I would teach them yoga. And a lot of these people were very well versed with other forms of yoga. So they were practicing Anusara and Jiva Mukti. And I had never heard of this, because in India, we just had Shivananda and 3 other lineages, right? So I already had to educate myself. So then I went down to Mysore and I practiced under Saraswati, who is Patabi Joyce's daughter. I practiced Ashtanga yoga, and that's the one where you jump back and forth. It's highly like endurance and
physical,
very physical. Not a whole lot of mindfulness. So I studied that, and then I studied at yoga festivals in Goa. I would go for those, and then I would get exposed to all these westernized forms of yoga. So I just basically started to tweak it and bake it into my teaching so that I could give my clients, who are a lot more international than me, a blend of both Eastern traditional as well as Western mindfulness. That's kind of how I saw it, kind of.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so curious actually now that your training and your whole background in yoga and coming from India, where yoga the roots are. I'm so curious about your perspective on all of the styles of yoga and how yoga is practiced in the West now.
I think a lot of the yoga is very similar. Um, I think we've got classes which are more physical. We've got the same in India, very physical based classes, and then you've got the mindfulness based classes. So I think over the years it's bridged. Perhaps if I had to answer this question a decade or more ago, it would be a very different answer. But I do think that now there's a true integration between the East and the West. And it's also dependent on the teacher. How much can the teacher bring mindfulness in, and do people want that? Because I know a lot of people don't want the mindfulness also. It's just too much. It's not something that they, and yet on the flip side, you also have people that walk out of classes where a teacher is talking calories in a yoga class, and they're like, I don't want to know about my calories that I'm burning or Fitbit information. So you get a healthy dose of both.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty blended. Yeah. Yeah. And I have gone to quite a couple of classes here, different teachers, different states and all the places that I've lived. And I notice, I'm like, oh, that's not very different from whatever. I think that's great, and that's staying true to yoga. I think it's when the names of yoga poses start to change that then I'm like, okay, now we're moving into something else.
Oh, okay. Like
Yeah.
what?
So, for example, cat and cow will be referred to as cat and dog, and I was like, well, isn't that appropriation on some level? Or you have the half moon is called something else.
Oh,
So these sprinklings are changing the face of yoga because they are taking existing poses and changing the names.
I see.
So
Yes.
and then that defines it very much as an Indian as well as a Western. Because then I can see the difference between them.
Yeah.
So it's just
I think that the poses and consistency across all of the different styles. I think that's one thing that I really like about yoga, and what I usually tell people when they're just starting out, I say, yes, there's all these different types of yoga, all these different styles, and yoga is the best. The one common thread is that poses don't change. You could be doing, a Shananda class, and you're doing your bow pose, and then you go to a vinyasa class, and the pose is all the same. So no matter where you're starting your journey, if you're starting in one style, you're learning the poses that will apply to many different styles. So
yeah. And then within that, though, I will also counter that within that, I have seen that there are some lineages within India which will not call the tree pole the tree pole. They've got a totally different Sanskrit name for it. I do not understand that.
okay.
So that was something I actually stumbled across a few weeks ago, because I'm looking at somebody else's yoga teacher training manual, and their manual was from an Indian organization out of Rishikesh, but they didn't call the tree pole Vrikshasana. They called it something totally different. And I was like, oh, this is interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of learning for me, and a lot of humility, because sometimes I realize, oh, I don't know everything,
Yeah.
Like, oh, I thought it was like this, but it's actually not like this,
Yeah.
So maybe we have appropriation within our own Indian things. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I can't speak for the preparation, but I think that's one of the things, the thing that I love the most about yoga. There's so many things, but the one thing is, in particular, is that it is a never-ending journey of learning and evolving and changing your perception and learning new things and adding to my knowledge and of everything. And it's like very much a personal growth journey, and so that's what I love about yoga.
I would agree with you. I would agree. And I think we all have those moments where we can practice yoga to calm ourselves down. And then we've got the yoga to increase the fire, And so it's really beautiful because no matter what you're looking for in your practice, you will find it.
Yes.
And I think that's the beauty of this studio also. That if you want to do a restorative class, you've got restorative. If you want to do something else, you've got that too, So you're not locked into, only one style or one way of teaching or one way of learning. So that's really great.
Exactly. That's why I always say like yoga is for everybody. The practice looks so different. There's so many different styles. There truly is something for everyone. You just have to find what you're looking for, what resonates at this time or on this day. Because it changes. Like you were talking about your yoga journey. If you started with the physical, got into more mindfulness, got back into physical, like and pulling different styles from what you've learned. One of the things that I really loved about your class and your offerings is that you are very mindfulness focused. Could you tell us a little bit about mindfulness and what that means to you?
Great question. I think mindfulness is sipping your tea and really savoring it, right? That's the just enjoying even a simple thing of taking a shower or walking your dog, just being really present and in the moment. And so like the definition is to accept the moment or the reality in the way that it is and not wishing for it to be different. So that's, I think, one of the many definitions of what mindfulness means. And then to take it one step further, there's always like, okay, well, I want to accept the reality, but I don't really like this reality, right? And so how do I navigate a reality that I don't like? And so that's where I try to teach people that we have a lot of looping thoughts. They can drive us crazy, right? How do we step away from that? How do we deal with that? So one way is to take a couple of deep, full, nourishing breaths in through the nose, out from the mouth. And that switches gears from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. And so then it kind of allows us, okay, just to take a three breath moment is like a mini meditation, because at that moment hopefully you won't have too many thoughts, or because they're deep breathing, it kind of slows the thinking process down, which is also ties into what anger management is about. So they're actually quite similar, right? In anger management, they say breathe deeply when you start to feel angry, count from 10 to 1, and then say or do whatever it is you want to do. And just doing that action gives a person enough time to choose, pause, to respond rather than react. The other thing that I like to talk about in mindfulness practices is also to use the breath as an anchor point. And if the breath isn't accessible, you can use sounds around you. If sounds are not something that is accessible, or maybe doesn't resonate for you, you can even open your eyes and look at a point and try to find a way to really be aware of where you are in the room that you're in, surrounded by whatever you're surrounded by. And so those just help calm us, kind of anchor us to the moment. Then we've got the looping thoughts. So how to navigate those? Label, simple label, helpful, unhelpful. If the thought is about a minute ago, the mind is in the past, but the body is in the present. Or if we're thinking about what we're going to do next week, again, the mind is in the future, but the body is in the present moment. So when I realized that my mind is going into the past or the future and not being in the present moment, I can label, come back to the breath, come back to the present moment. If the breath doesn't work, just label and visualize that you're taking that thought that you've labeled, putting it on a leaf, and then sending that leaf down the stream. And that will also help. Or viewing the thoughts like clouds in the sky. So this is where I try to make the yoga practice deeper, because you're holding poses, you're doing poses that you've done, we've done them 1,000 times, right? So how do we make that moment where we're doing that same pose 1,000 times or for the 100th time, how do we make it that meaningful? And that's where I try to bring into the picture of, when a thought pops into your mind, just notice it. No judgment.
Yes.
And then cueing the non-judgment aspect into mindfulness really helps, because when I stop judging myself, I'm going to be less critical of myself. I'm going to be less scathing towards myself. And then that'll ripple out into when I see other people I'm gonna maybe celebrate them rather than tear them down or be judgmental. Oh my God, why is she dressed like that? And we've all done it. And even now, till date, I might find myself criticizing. Then I wonder, why am I criticizing this person? They haven't done anything to me, right? But it's noticing that the mind wants to go into this not necessarily positive vein of thought. And to just kind of bring it back home and say, no, that's okay. We don't need to be nasty. We can be nice. But all of this is rooted in the fact that we've come from that survival from the ancestors. So we're always looking for things that are threatening. And so we're always on edge. And so I try to bring less edginess into class, just navigate a few things in your practice on your mat. And those are the same things we can take off the mat into daily life and hopefully have a more peaceful existence or blissful existence or just calmer existence.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key point is that it's a practice. Like, number one, it's a practice of non-judgment and knowing that it's totally normal and human for your thoughts to wander, your mind to be in the past or present, but the practice of bringing it back to the future, and it happens to everybody. You're saying it happens to you, and you're an expert at mindfulness and meditation.
Yeah. I've studied a lot, so yeah.
Then the second piece is how when we practice, and yoga is a great way to practice because you're on your mat, there's very few distractions compared to the rest of our lives. And when we practice it in this setting and guided by teachers, it's a lot easier to put it into play when we're out in the world and, stuck in traffic or something annoys us, somebody says something that annoys us. So it truly is a really beneficial practice. What would you say are some of the benefits that somebody can feel if they start practicing mindfulness, they haven't really done it before, that they can get off of their mat and outside of a formal practice?
Great question. So coming back to what you just mentioned, right? So standing at the grocery line, getting annoyed that the person in front is taking forever, right? So we catch ourselves and we see, why am I getting annoyed? Like, what is it that I have to do that's so urgent that I feel this need or this restlessness, That's a moment where we can just count the breath. That in itself is a mini meditation. Or if the person in front of us or the teller is having some sort of a challenge with whatever they're doing, maybe use that moment to say, oh my God, they're having a really tough time. Their job is really hard. I'm so glad that they're there to do it. Maybe they're going through something. So kind of bringing a little bit of an empathetic state of mind into it, because we know that everybody is somebody's child, somebody's daughter, somebody's mother. And so when we look at it from that lens, we're less likely, because then we're noticing we're all connected and we all want the same thing. We all want to be happy. So why should I get annoyed that I'm standing in line and being delayed by whatever it is that's going on and get annoyed, right? And who's it affecting? It's affecting me, right? I'm the one who's getting annoyed. Those two who are interacting, they're fine. Or even at the red light, right? I'm waiting in traffic and there's either a traffic jam or a red light. Instead of getting annoyed and upset and oh my God, I'm gonna be late. Well, what can I do if I'm gonna be late? I can't do anything. So I might as well use that time in a wise way, which is count breath, 3 deep breaths, close my eyes, take a 1 minute, just maybe mini nap, just to get out of our heads and stop feeding the annoyance and the irritation. Right. That's really what it boils down to, right? And then even when we're in the subway, right? It's a long 30-40 minute ride. So we could either use that time to listen to a guided meditation, watch a movie, listen to music, and you can do all three. I mean, not at the same time, but you can kind of like choose. Some days you want to cultivate that mindfulness instead of watching a movie. And some days you want to watch a movie and not do the mindfulness. So we can really structure our life in a way that uses our time in those moments when we have that time.
Right.
To cultivate. Just listen to something on mindfulness or a talk.
To be more intentional.
To be more intentional with our life and what we're doing and what we want to get out of it. We're not celebrities that are, making great music and bringing joy to the world on that level, but we can be many celebrities in our own right? For our children, for our spouses, for our partner, but most importantly, for even strangers. I find it really easy to be kind to strangers than to family members who've hurt me. Try that one on for size.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an exercise. It really is.
Yes, I can see that. What are some of the common misconceptions that people have about meditation or yoga?
I think the most popular, famous misconception with yoga is I'm not flexible enough.
Yeah. Yes.
And I hear this all the time, and I'm like, but if you were flexible, why would you need to do yoga? Because then you already have that, right? So doing yoga helps us become flexible. I'm someone who's always been a little bit more flexible, and for me, it's not even flexibility that I'm looking for or wanting to increase the flexibility. For me, yoga is just to kind of take a break from life, be on the mat and really connect with my body and notice, oh, how does my body feel in this pose or that pose? Or because every time we do a yoga pose, the body is different because the mind is different and the surrounding elements are different. So each time we get on the mat, it can be a moment of curiosity and something brand new, like a beginner's mind, rather than, oh, I've done this so many times, this is so boring, I know how my body's going to respond to it, have that. So that's the flexibility is one, which I always hear about yoga. And for meditation, it's always about, I don't know how to clear my mind of thoughts.
Okay.
And that's, for me, it's like, that's kind of like, you have to learn to walk before you can learn to run. Yeah. And so mindfulness would be the first step to then walking the path to, let's say, meditation, where you technically do clear your mind of thoughts. But also meditation is really about observing the thoughts as they arise, because they pop up, they have a beginning, a middle, an end, and if you don't interact with them, they die, they fade, or they kind of just gently float away. And so that is a form of meditation, to just sit and observe, notice. It is what it is, and not do anything about it. Just notice it.
I'm glad that you said that, because I think that, and for myself too, before, like, I was into yoga for a long time, and before I got into meditation, I had this misconception in my head about I have to be able to sit there for at least 10 minutes and not have any thoughts. And it's just so intimidating that it makes you, a person, not want to even start.
Right.
Like, I'm not ready for that yet.
Totally understand. And so I would ask you and the audience that's kind of listening to this, can you sit for 1 minute?
Yes.
Just 1 minute every day. Set your timer for like maybe a minute 15, because you're gonna you need that 15 seconds to sit and kind of adjust and be comfortable.
Yeah.
And then let it hit the 1 minute mark. Close your eyes, sit there for 1 minute. You can count your breath, you can label your thoughts, you can count your thoughts.
Yes.
3 things. Or you can do none of that and just sit.
And I think it's knowing that it's okay to have thoughts. You're still meditating if you have thoughts, and you acknowledge them and let them pass by. Knowing that I don't have to sit there and try not to have any thoughts, because it's kind of a paradox when you try not to think of something that's all you can think about.
Yes, it's the thinking about the not thinking.
Yeah.
And then that becomes debilitating and it messes up the practice. So yes, I have a thought. It's all good. Yeah. Before you know it, the thought's gone, and you probably had like a millisecond of no thoughts and you didn't even realize it. And then just as you realize, oh my God, my mind is not thinking, you just had it.
Yeah, exactly. I think you won't really know if you're meditating, because then you're thinking about not having thoughts.
Yes. I would say start baby steps. 1 minute every day. Every day, 1 minute, same time if you can, or maybe a different time when you're free. And then you can just increase that to 2 minutes after a month or two of practice.
Yeah.
And then just play with it. Yeah.
And I personally find guided meditations to be more helpful than trying to sit in silence. So I'm really glad to have discovered your guided meditations and your group. And so I'll definitely be sharing that and posting that with everybody because it's such an incredible resource and free, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely free.
And you do have other workshops and courses and everything to deepen the practice, but I think it's such a valuable resource and it's so hard to find just truly great meditations too.
And I think coming back to what you said, I think the best way to start is start with guided meditation.
Yeah.
And what I've done in some of my guided meditations is I do have like 20 seconds of silence.
I noticed.
Right?
I noticed.
And so the idea is you're starting small and you're seeing, okay, can I even just sit for 20 seconds? Or
Yes.
does restlessness arise? And if restlessness does arise, it's okay, name it. Just be like, there is restlessness here in this moment.
Yes.
This is a big one for mindfulness, is to not say I am restless, but to say there is restlessness, or there is anger, or there is joy, because that's coming away from identifying with these things, which is where we end up getting into trouble also. That's, I think, another conversation.
Yeah, no, but I've heard ever since I heard about that, because it's kind of become mainstream when somebody says, I'm so anxious and I'm so anxious about this and that, and just to make that minor tweak in your internal dialogue and the story that we tell ourselves, and instead of saying I'm not anxious, I'm not an anxious person, but I feel anxiety about this.
That's so much more. It takes away that because we are not our anxiousness, we are not our anger, right? It's a part of us. So to say that I am an anxious person, that's really labeling ourselves, and I don't think in a good way.
Yeah, it's
right. But to just say there is anxiousness here in this moment is to remind ourselves that too will pass.
Mm-hmm. I've heard of, on the flip side though, of if there's a positive quality that you're trying to cultivate, and the backstory is to label yourself. And the backstory is that a while ago I had picked up running, and I wouldn't say I'm a runner at that time, but I had picked it up, and I met up with a friend. We were catching up, and I'm saying, "Oh yeah, I just started running. I'm running out some frustrations," and he's like, "So you're a runner?" And I said, "No, like I'm not." And he's like, "No, you run, you're a runner." And it's just this internal story that you're telling yourself. If it's something that you want to cultivate and want to identify with, there can be power in saying, like, I run, I'm a runner.
Right. And so I'm going to tie that into the affirmations, the positive statements of the affirmations. Yes. Like when I'm doing the yoga sequence and I get you into warrior and I get you to say, I am strong and powerful. Yes. So in that moment, it kind of is completely opposite of the whole, well, no, there is strength and power in this moment. But no, as a person, I want to have that quality of being a strong and powerful person in a good way.
Yes. I loved that you incorporated those in your class. So I loved the way that you wove in the mindfulness aspects in so many, in a variety of ways. I've never been in a class where the teacher has used that many different methods. And I loved that even in Warrior, you're in Warrior 2, and you said, I am grounded, I'm rooted. Yes. And then the second one was, I'm powerful and I'm strong.
Right.
I loved that one. Those two really stuck with me.
Yeah. And those are all tapping into the root energy center.
Mm-hmm.
But because I don't know my audience and I don't know how comfortable they will be with me talking about chakras and energy center, I just kind of throw it up in the air and just let it land where it may. But I won't tell anyone it's related to an energy center. Like I encourage women, especially women, to cultivate the third eye because it truly is about intuition. And some of us have it more honed than other people. If I start getting into it being a chakra or an energy center, it might put some people off. And I don't want them to lose out because of that. So I like it to be very secular practice.
Yeah.
So I try to bring everything in. And the reason I offer so many different techniques in the practice is because what may resonate for you may not resonate for somebody else. And what may resonate for you today may not resonate for you tomorrow. So I figure if you have all of it at your disposal, whatever tools, when you need, you're going to want to pick them up and use them. So, for example, funny story, I got stuck in a basement washroom the first year I moved to Toronto, which was like last year. Did not have my phone on.
Oh no.
And I literally could feel the panic arising.
Yeah.
Because I was like, there's nobody else down here. And it's going to take a while for my husband to realize that I haven't returned, right?
Yeah.
So what I did was I was breathing really deeply because I could feel the panic. And then, of course, I knocked on the door when I heard somebody walking around. And then they managed to help me get out. But this is where I kind of had that moment of anxiety.
Yeah. You felt anxiety.
I felt that anxiety in that moment, and then I wanted to do something about it.
And luckily, from all your vast practices, you have the tools to help you in your everyday life. So that's what you're bringing to the world, is sharing these tools so that we can use them when we need them.
Yes. Can I just pause
the
phone now? Because I hear the phone ringing, and I'm wondering if someone is here. I saw her smiling.
Okay, well, we'll just talk and see how it goes,
like
because I wanted to touch on
Yeah.
what you were saying about how you incorporate the different mindfulness aspects in class. I think it's really one of the really powerful things about yoga is the mindfulness aspect. Even if we're not fully, as a practitioner, we're not fully aware of the practice. Like, a lot of people will come to yoga for the physical, and they continue to come back because they feel better, and they can't exactly put their finger on why they feel better, but they know they feel better, and we know it's most likely because of the underlying mindfulness practices. If they've been woven into the class, they're very powerful.
Right. But I would also say, and as a way to contradict that, is that sometimes we're so in our own heads that when we get on the mat, it's the only time when we're not thinking about whatever it is that's taking up so much time and energy. And so because we give our mind a break, because we're doing such a, let's say, a rigorous workout, that then when we're done with our practice, we're able to hopefully tackle whatever it is that's been taking up so much time in our headspace. I know I've had situations where I've had someone live rent-free in my head, and the only time I got a little bit of a break from it was when I got on the mat. And not even necessarily the mindfulness practice, just doing yoga, thinking about what is the next pose I'm going to do, blah, 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 right? Because then the focus is shifted from whatever that situation is to, okay, what am I going to do in my practice? Will I do breathing? Am I going to do the balance? Am I going to do a twist? Whatever. So that's one part of it. Then there are some people that will come into, actually have someone say to me that, why would I want to come for a mindfulness-based yoga class when I have my therapist I can go to? And I'm thinking, no. Wouldn't you rather drop the therapist and have yoga as being your therapist? But then I didn't want to get into that person's I didn't want to continue talking about it, because when that person is not there, they haven't reached that point where they're thinking, oh my gosh, my yoga can actually replace my therapist.
Or like both.
Or both.
Very good.
Right. Or have both as a complement, but don't look at it as physical versus mindfulness. But have them both kind of be a blended marriage of it too. And that's why when I start my classes, I say, you're welcome to take what I say with a grain of salt, and if it doesn't resonate for you, just let it flow and ignore it. Because I don't know where people are coming from. I don't know what suitcases or baggage they're carrying with them, right? And so I don't want anything to be a trigger. But my hope is that in giving different cues, they learn to navigate things, I think the worst, I think, is a breakup, right? So I've had a guy who came to my class and he was just devastated because he was in love with someone, she wasn't in love with him, and it was just taking up all his energy and time.
Yeah.
And then he fed it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So
I think kind of touching on that and what you were talking about earlier, yoga is this space, like our practice is a time on our mat to really go inward and start to listen to our own intuition, our own body. And I think that can be a really powerful, at least for me, it's been a really powerful practice of like practicing it on the mat and then being able to apply it in off the mat, because it's hard. Like we're so disconnected and we're not really taught to follow our intuition in the outside world. So it can be a really hard practice to like get back in touch with it.
Yes. And it's interesting that you mentioned that, just because I tend to watch a lot of movies from back in the day, like 40s, 50s, film noir. And it's funny, they allude to it, especially if you watch things like One Step Beyond.
I don't know.
Oh, wow. These are like, they're like Twilight Zone kind of like TV shows from the 50s. And so you'd have the guy, the woman is saying, but I know he's in trouble. And the guy's like, no, we're not into intuition mumbo jumbo out here.
Interesting.
And yet, of course, the end of this show, it turns out the woman's intuition was correct. And it's interesting how that kind of got sidelined back in the day, and how now, we're giving more respect, because I think science has really been proving more and more that intuition and mindfulness and just having that spiritual or that slightly different outlook is not a bad thing, and it doesn't threaten people to be. If you want to start cultivating mindfulness, just see how many breaths you can count.
That is so hard. I do that in my own meditation, because you have to. I think the meditation that I do, they're saying, okay, now count 10 breaths. And if you lose track, or if you have a thought, you sit back at 1. Yeah. And it is way harder than it sounds.
The average is 4 breath counts or 5, and the person's mind is often running.
It's difficult, yeah. So
did you know that we take about 20,000 breaths in a day? 20,000.
And we don't even think about it.
No. And did you know we have about 70 to 80,000 thoughts in a day? Most of them are looping thoughts in the day before.
I have heard the majority of thoughts are repetitive, even within the same day. But 80,000 thoughts? Wow. When you put it in numbers, it sounds crazy. And then you think about how you could change your whole outlook on life and your whole life if the majority of those thoughts are negative or the majority of those thoughts are positive.
Right. And so that's where mindfulness comes in, right? So if I'm not walking a mindfulness path, I won't even know how many of my thoughts are positive or negative. So the first step is, okay, that's why the labeling comes into the picture. Okay, now I know I have a negative or a positive thought. So it takes 5 positive interactions to negate 1 negative interaction. So think about, you've had this beautiful day, but somebody says something really mean to you in the subway. And what is the thing how do we end our day? We end our day by remembering that one main thing that happened and not all the 50 great things that happened. So we have to make a conscious effort to replace that 1 negative interaction with 5 positive interaction. And that's why I bring also gratitude practice into it, because now if I'm cultivating gratitude, then I'm going to be grateful for everything big and small in my life, right? And then I start to see, okay, well, just by having a thought of gratitude is a positive thought. Oh, but then I get a negative thought. But you know what? That's okay, because I'm gonna have another thought of either gratitude or a positive thought or whatever. I'm gonna keep replacing these negative instances with something positive. So just as I start to see that negative bias come into the picture, nip it in the bud with something positive.
Right. And mindfulness is that practice of noticing a negative.
And it's a fine balance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. Your thoughts do create your reality. I love that you had mentioned that before when we spoke about the 5 positive thoughts to outweigh a negative, and it stuck with me because I had heard that in the context of relationships before, but I had never applied it to just the context of an individual and a way to live life. In the context of relationships, I think it was something about, if you have one negative interaction, an argument, you need 5 positives to outweigh it. So it totally makes sense. Everything is aligned. It's just, I love when I learn a concept in one area and, you find consistencies in other areas.
Yeah, you kind of have the thread that links everything together. Yeah.
So, that's great. And gratitude is such a powerful practice. I know people don't always want to hear it because they're like, oh yeah.
So one thing that I may have forgotten to mention in my class on Sunday when I was teaching, which is when we met, was that when we practice, let's say, okay, now technically it's like 3 times a day, 15 minutes a day, technically. I don't think we have that much time.
Yeah.
So even if we were to just have like a gratitude diary and write 3 things down and why we're grateful for whatever it is that we're grateful for, the body gets a signal that tells it to start producing something called immunoglobulin A. And that helps fight viruses and bacteria, and it strengthens the immune system. So if someone doesn't want to do gratitude from that point of view, here's a scientific reason why you should do it. And that's what I try to bring into class, you know. And then when we have a gratitude practice, we're less likely to feel the blues, right? Especially in a place like Canada where you've got like, I like to think of it as 9 months of winter. 3 days of summer. But yeah, I mean, you have, it gets dark at 4 o'clock and it can be a little bit, I know in India, I used to feel very depressed in winters, very depressed. I probably would not have fared well if I'd been in Canada when I had that mindset. But because of the mindset that I have now, the darkness doesn't bother me. The winter doesn't bother me. The snow doesn't bother me. If anything, I look at it as, oh, the snow's so pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, even when I'm walking through the slush, I'm like, this is really beautiful.
Yeah.
But I can have that because I haven't grown up with it. So for someone who's grown up in it and they're tired of it, think gratitude. Be grateful you have a snow plow that plows the sidewalks. Yes. There's some places which don't have that.
Yes.
Yeah. And or be grateful that you've got running water, because there are many places in the world that do not have running water, and women have to trudge 5 miles to a well to get water. I come from a country which is mainly like that. So for me to see these things creates a lot of gratitude. And that's why I say to people,
yes.
travel.
Yes.
Because it gets you outside your little bubble. And so it helps us see things in a different way. And it truly does change people.
Exactly.
And even if you don't travel outside of Canada, even within Canada, I'm sure there are places one can go to and they can, see all these things and then be grateful for the city that they live in.
Yeah.
Just to cultivate that sense of, when I'm not feeling good, when I'm depressed, and when I'm feeling down and out, and I think that, oh my God, the world's a really not a good place and my life is rubbish and rotten, think of these things.
Yeah.
I think it helps.
I do too. I think it's true how powerful your mindset really is everything, your attitude towards everything. And it's top of mind right now because we're in the middle of a snowstorm. I always try to think whenever we're in winter and trudging through the snow and everything's a little bit more difficult, getting to yoga and so on. But I think, how nice it is to have all 4 seasons, because it makes me really appreciate a beautiful summer day. It's not always like that,
Yeah, because if it was always sunny and beautiful, we wouldn't appreciate it, because we just take it for granted. And so it's those snowy days or those rainy monsoon days when we're like, oh my gosh, I do appreciate those sunny days.
Yeah, it gives you a different, like travel, it gives you a different perspective.
Totally.
And even applying it to like the things we go through,
Yeah.
the things we go through, I have found it with my own experiences when I'm going through a really difficult time and feeling really difficult emotions.
Yeah.
What I've realized is that it just expands my capacity for feeling, and I feel more alive now that I'm on the other side of it a little bit. I'm able to say, I felt really sad, really depressed, like it was a really difficult time. But now the joy and the happiness and the contentness that I feel is, I'm that much more appreciative of it.
Right.
So,
Oh, totally.
yeah.
And then it's like funny because then suddenly they're like more and more joyful moments.
Yeah, exactly.
I've actually had homeless people like come and stand in front of me and smile at me, and it's like, oh, they're reminding me to smile.
Yeah.
And it's really weird. It's like I have a very weird, surreal moments, which
Yeah.
I never had before. I probably will never have again, but it's like the universe sends out these mini reminders to, hey, be grateful, be happy, be joyful. Things could be worse and they could be better, but you know what? This is how they are. So
Yeah.
embrace this moment, Because there's a lot of suffering in wanting something to be different, right? And it can be quite overwhelming, and it can be quite, I don't know, just not if we're in a place where we want things always to be different, we're losing out on life, we're losing out on the moment.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Like you were talking about earlier, how you're saying your mind is in the future or your mind is in the past, body in the present. I think there's a way of, I don't know how to articulate it well, maybe you do, but there's a way of saying, it's okay to have goals and to want certain things in life, but at the same time, being content with where you are.
I think you put it perfectly.
Yeah.
I think I can include that.
Okay.
That is brilliant. That's true.
Yeah.
Like on one hand, yeah, we shouldn't be like, sitting on the sofa in mom's basement playing video games and expecting to be a millionaire. That's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we should have those goals, but also know that if those goals don't come to fruition, it's not gonna be the end of us.
Yeah.
We just have to change strategy, change goals, change track, whatever. But be prepared for that.
Yeah. And also, while you're in that moment, wherever it is, even if it's not the end goal, there's ways to find contentness and ways to feel okay with it.
Yeah.
So, awesome. Okay. To finish off our chat here, this has been so insightful, and I feel like we could chat forever.
Oh, yeah.
One question that I always ask is, what is yoga?
Great question. So, the standard answer would be that yoga is a way of life. It's a holistic way of living. Yoga is life, right? Even sitting here right now is a yogic moment, right? But yeah, technically, traditionally, yoga would be on your mat, doing yoga poses, and then somehow taking that off into your daily life. It's how you eat, how you drink, how you interact with people, where your mind is, how you breathe, because breathing is a big part of yoga. So yoga has 8 limbs to it. So it's all about breathing, meditation, concentration, closing your eyes to cut out distraction, but it's really to cut out the negative things that could perhaps come into our life, to be mindful of those things. It could be like a toxic person or food that's not, well cooked or whatever, so there are 8 limbs by which we live our life, and most of us don't even realize it. But it's everything. It's about just balancing and living life the middle path, for lack of a better way of putting it, where we're not extreme on one end or the other end of the spectrum. And I know that still doesn't answer the question because I would actually need probably a few hours to answer it. But in a nutshell, it's really how we carry ourselves in life, how we interact with people, what we're doing in terms of diet, thought processes, what we say, how we say it, right? How we dress, how we feel about ourselves.
I think that encompasses a lot. And the reason I asked that question is because it is so hard to define, and because there's this misconception that yoga is just stretching, or yoga is just the physical, another style of working out that's easy. So I'd love to ask the question to everybody because it's really difficult to define.
Yeah.
Succinctly.
Yeah, it is. It
So,
is.
and thank you for sharing your perspective.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, shall we? I was hoping you would share some mindfulness or meditation practices with us today.
Ooh, okay. So I think the most popular one is the bee breath.
Okay.
I think that is probably the best thing to do.
Yeah.
A lot of people love it. And it's an easy practice to do anywhere, anytime. I'd be a little careful if you're in the office, your colleagues might get a little annoyed, but it's really humming. And you can't beat humming, right? So the traditional way is to put your thumbs in your ears and cover your eyes, take a breath in, and when you hum, you exhale. So let me just demonstrate a mini breath. I could go on. So that's it in a nutshell. And so they say that 6 bee breaths is what we should do as like a comprehensive practice. So if you can do more in your day or your morning or whatever, great. But if you only have a limited amount of time, just do 6. So closing the ears, covering the eyes is one technique. The second technique is not to cover and close. The third technique is to lie down and do it with your eyes covered and closed. And fourth would be to lie down and do it without covering eyes and closing your ears. Most of us will have the eyes closed. It's just really about cutting the sound out. So I'd like to invite you. Should we sit together?
Yes.
Perfect. So you want to pull the breath into your belly. So what this does is, before I forget, it helps with stress, anxiety. It increases the lung capacity so that the body can take in more oxygen. But as you may know, the power in yoga as well as in life in general is in the long exhalation or in a lengthy exhalation. So that's really what we're trying to do. Breathe out longer than you breathe in.
Got it. One question for you.
Yes.
Why the humming? What does the humming do?
It just kind of helps. I mean, you can do it as a silent breath also, but the humming gives it a little bit more character and oomph.
Okay. I like it.
That's my non-traditional answer.
And you mentioned doing it around animals.
Oh, yes. Try it around your animals and see what
I did.
I did. How was it?
I did. I did it around 2 big dogs that I'm looking after right now, and they came right up to me and started licking my face. Is that what's supposed to happen?
Well, it's different for different animals. So I've had some animals that go running out of the room because they're like, what is going on? They get all excited because they've never heard their master or whoever doing this. Some kind of come and sit on the mat next to their, owner.
Yeah.
My cat just looks at me like I'm nuts.
Well, I'm gonna start doing it now when I'm looking after different animals.
I think it'd be great.
I'll see.
Yeah.
Compare the different reactions and do it with my own dog at home too.
Yes. I think the most interesting would be to do it with your own animal because your animal knows you best.
Yeah.
Right? And I'd be a little scared that a dog or a dog that your dog's sitting for might maybe bite.
But yeah. These ones are really good. They're really well behaved.
Okay,
but they're even when I do yoga, sometimes they all come on the mat. But anyways.
Yes.
Shall we?
6?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Good. Close ears. Cover eyes. Breathe in. Stop whenever.
That's great.
How do you feel?
I feel more calm and more relaxed. And I also noticed during it that I was just focused on inward. I think sealing the ears makes a really interesting seal and with no eyes. And the main thought that I had was just, this does sound like a bee. The humming, yeah.
It's a very popular breath.
Yeah.
So my personal practice is actually the alternate nostril breathing, this one.
Mm-hmm.
And my ratio is 5 seconds in, hold for 20 seconds, exhale out for 10. But you start small, and that practice is, you know, how the left nostril is connected to the right brain and the left brain is connected to the right nostril.
Mm-hmm.
And so the alternate nostril tries to bring balance.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But the bee breath is so much more accessible. So it's easier for me to teach that and kind of roll it out. And you can hum when you're dusting and you're vacuuming. And it's such an easy breath to do without actually doing anything.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I teach it more often than the other one.
I like the humming too because it brought up something like a feeling of like, oh yeah, this. You know, like I don't hum out loud that much anymore. I did as a kid.
Right.
It's like a little bit of finding my voice, kind of.
Yeah. And so you could even hum your favorite song.
Yeah. Yeah.
While you do stuff, cooking and whatever. And so you're actually doing a bee breath in a song, perhaps setup.
Mm-hmm.
Cooking, maybe.
Yeah.
And increasing your exhalation or the power of your breath. And so it's a total win-win.
And I feel like there probably is something to do with the humming and vibrations.
Yeah.
In the body.
Yeah. You can start to feel it.
Yeah. And I love that you said, you know, it's a more accessible version of the nostril breathing because I find that challenging unless it's being guided about which one when.
Right. And the bee breath is just so easy. You can hum as you walk home. You can hum as you do stuff. You know, the closing the ears and covering the eyes is like a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to do it without that, you can do it without that. And I always end up, you know, encouraging people to have a stack of cushions, especially if you're doing it seated like this. Traditionally, the elbows get splayed out, but this gets tiring if you're going to be doing like 30 bee breaths. So you can put your elbows down. And so back in India, when I taught private, I'd just start stacking, you know, underneath the clients, you know, I'd have like 3 cushions so that they could focus on the bee breath without going, oh, my shoulder, they're hurting, my elbow, they're hurting, you know, my arm is hurting, right? So if you want to take, so just stack up on cushions. If you're lying down, you can also stack the cushions up.
Yeah. I love it. I think it's in your class with you, that was the very first time I had tried the deep breath. And I really liked it because it is this feeling of no outside distraction, just completely going inward in a really easy way.
And then you notice you probably don't have any thoughts when you're deep breathing.
No, the only thought was buzzing.
Right. And so that then works into being meditation too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, without knowing it, without thinking it.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting there being like, am I doing it? Because I'm just focusing on the breath.
Yeah. And then you don't have to worry about, am I doing it correctly? Is it long enough? Am I supposed to be on right nostril, left nostril, like you mentioned earlier?
Exactly.
So there's no second guessing. There's no confusion. It's just simple, straightforward. And so it allows you to do the practice pretty seamless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without thinking, which I think is the whole thing about in yoga also, when we try to just get out of our head, get into the body. Like you said, I'm just thinking about the practice. Now I'm twisting, now I'm doing this, I'm moving. I think that's the best for me. That's when I have the most joy out of my practice, is when I'm not worrying about, am I doing this right? Is this person gonna be judging me if I do this pose? I'm just without thinking.
In the moment, no judgment,
just
enjoy.
Living, just eating.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing these practices with us.
Thank you.
I'm excited for everybody to try deep breath and to try your guided meditations. I know I did the one this morning that you sent me about love.
Snow globe.
Okay.
That was today.
I got one about self-love.
They are about self-love, but yesterday's was self-love. I think today I sent the snow globe guided meditation. And I sent that because that's actually one of my favorites. I have 3 favorite ones. So there's one which is the snow globe, where you actually think of your thoughts like snowflakes in the snow globe.
I like that.
All right, so try that meditation. There's an art of letting go. That's the second. And then there's pauses between spaces, which I haven't rolled out yet on this round, so I will at some point. Yeah.
Ooh.
But yeah, you're right. The whole month of Feb, I'm just trying to offer as much as self-love and metta-loving kindness meditations. And then I thought, okay, we've done so much that let me give a break and kind of segue into, because we also have this month where we're thinking about, why didn't he call me, or she called me, or they called me, or whatever, or so we have those looping thoughts. So it's another way to just navigate the thoughts, and then I'll come back to the more loving practice.
Well, I'm excited. I like the variety, and I'm excited to hear about the space in between.
Oh, that's a great meditation. Now that I mentioned it, I'll probably share it tomorrow.
Okay, yay. Okay, well, we'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Moira, for your time.
Thank you. Should we finish off with the cheers?
Yes, I think we should.
Thanks for listening to the Yoga Society podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe and share it with someone who could use a little more mindfulness in their day. See you next time.